Welcome back to the deep dive. We're continuing our journey, section by section, through the Manual of Patent Examining Procedure, the MPEP.
Yep, piece by piece. Think of this as your shortcut to understanding all those, well, sometimes dense details.
Exactly, one focused session at a time. And today we're turning our attention to Chapter 1800. That's the chapter all about the Patent Cooperation Treaty, the PCT.
Right. Chapter 1800 really gets into the procedures, the rules, everything relevant to that international phase of patent prosecution under the PCT framework.
It's pretty critical stuff if you're dealing with patents across different countries.
Absolutely. And within that chapter, we're zoning right in on one specific section, MPP Section 1809.
Section 1809, and the title is Access to the USPTO Patent Electronic Filing System.
So our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack how you, as applicants or stakeholders, can actually get your eyes on the status of your international applications, specifically when the USPTO is involved and using their electronic system.
Okay, so we're talking about the tools the USPTO offers for tracking these PCT applications electronically, what you can see, what you can't see, and crucially, how you actually link your application to your account in their system.
Precisely. It's all about navigating that electronic interface for PCT matters handled by the USPTO. We want to give you a clear, focused path, a shortcut, really through how Section 1809 explains using these tools.
Sounds good. Now, before we properly dive in, just a quick but very important thank you to Mike Shepard.
Oh, absolutely.
Mike's the creative director who organized this entire MPP audio series. It's a massive project, and we really appreciate his work putting it all together.
Definitely. And the necessary disclaimer, this summary we're discussing, it was generated using AI tools.
Right.
We've tried to be accurate based on the source material provided, but there might be errors or omissions. It's really for general educational info only.
Definitely not legal advice.
Not at all. It's
Yeah.
no substitute for digging into the official MPEP itself or getting formal instruction or, of course, talking to a registered patent practitioner.
Couldn't agree more. Always consult the official sources for authoritative guidance. Okay, let's get into MPP Section 1809 then. You've got an international application. It's moving through the PCT system.
Yeah, and maybe the USPTO is acting as the receiving office or perhaps an international searching authority.
Keeping track of its status is obviously vital. But the whole PCT process, dealing with different offices, it can feel, well, a bit complicated sometimes.
It certainly can. And Section 1809 directly addresses that need for visibility. It details how the USPTO provides electronic access to the status information for those specific international applications they're handling.
And this access is primarily through, what, the main USPTO portal, Patent Center.
That's the one the source points to, yes. Patent Center. And within that system, MPP Section 1809 explained there are different levels of access, different views, you could call them.
Okay, so like one view for everybody and maybe another one that's more locked down?
Exactly. You've got the public view. This is basically open to anyone. It lets you see information that's already, publicly available anyway.
Things like issued U.S. patents, published U.S. applications, that kind of stuff.
Right. If the international application has already entered the U.S. national stage and been published, you'd likely find info about it there, stuff that's already out in the open.
Makes sense. Public info stays public. But then there's the private view. That sounds more exclusive.
It is. The private view is where you can access unpublished application data. This is the confidential information before an application publishes or a patent issues.
Okay, so obviously you can't just let anyone see that.
Absolutely not. Access to the private view is restricted. You have to be a registered user of the Patent Center system. You need an account. You need to be logged in.
But just having an account isn't enough, right? I can't just log in and browse everyone's secret, unpublished applications.
No, definitely not. Even being registered only gets you so far. The crucial part is that the private view only shows data for applications that are specifically associated with your particular user account.
Ah, okay. Association. That's the key word here. The application has to be actively linked to your account. How does that happen? How do you make that connection?
Right, and this is where Section 1809 gets down to the nuts and bolts. The main mechanism for linking an international application to your registered user account, the thing that grants you that private view, is the customer number.
The customer number. Okay, that's a familiar USPTO concept. That unique number they assign to firms or individuals to help manage correspondence and fees across different applications.
That's the one. It's a key identifier within their system. And Section 1809 explains that linking an international application to a customer number associated with your registered patent center account is how you get that private view access.
So how do you actually do the linking? Does it work the same way if I'm filing a new international application right now versus one I filed, say, last year?
Good question. The process is a bit different depending on the timing. The source says, for new international applications that you're filing electronically through Patent Center, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
You can usually just input the customer number right there during the electronic filing process. It's sort of built into the submission workflow.
Right. You're setting it all up from the start anyway, so you just add the customer number then. Makes sense. But what about those applications already on file? The ones filed before you decided to link them electronically? Or maybe before customer numbers were as commonly used?
For those previously filed international applications, MPP Section 1809 states you need to submit a formal request to the USPTO, a specific request just to link that existing application to your customer number.
A formal request. Sounds official.
Yeah.
What needs to be in that request for the USPTO to process it?
It's quite specific, according to the source material. The request has to include 4 key things. First, obviously, the customer number you want to link it to. Second, the specific international application number itself. Third, a registration number. This usually means the registration number of a patent attorney or agent who's authorized to act.
Right, proving authority.
Exactly. And fourth, it needs a signature. The source says it must be signed by either the applicant directly or the attorney or agent of record for that application. Reinforces that authorization point again.
Yeah, that registration number and signature ties back to general MPEP rules about who can actually talk to the office about a specific application. It's about verifying who you are and that you have the right to access this stuff.
Precisely. It's all about maintaining security and proper authorization before granting this kind of access. And the MPEP section even helpfully points to the specific form for this. USPTO Form PTO-2248.
PTO-2248. Okay, good to know the exact form number. Now,
Yeah.
how do you get this form, this request, to the USPTO? Can you just upload it through Patent Center, since we are talking about electronic access here?
Well, this is where it gets slightly interesting, maybe a bit of a procedural speed bump in our digital discussion. The source actually states that this specific form, the PTO-2248 for linking existing applications, can still be submitted using, let's say, more traditional methods.
Yeah.
Mail or fax.
Mail or fax, seriously. In the era of Patent Center.
Yep, mail or fax,
Ugh.
and it needs to go to a specific internal USPTO address. Mail stop EBC.
Mail stop EBC, okay. That does feel a little analog, I guess.
It does, doesn't it? It kind of highlights that even with these really quite sophisticated electronic systems, certain administrative tasks, maybe especially those requiring specific signed forms for linking purposes, might still rely on older submission channels for processing. MailStop EBC is just their internal routing code for these kinds of requests.
Okay, so let's recap. You register in Patent Center.
Yeah.
You have your customer number sorted out. You link your international application either when you file it electronically or by sending in that paper Form PTO-2248 for an older one.
Right.
Then you get your private view access. You can log in, check the status. But now we get to that aha moment you hinted at earlier. Just because you can see the application doesn't mean you can suddenly change things through Patent Center, does it?
This is a really critical clarification in Section 1809, and honestly, it's easy to see how someone could get confused here. The MPP is clear. Associating an international application with a customer number just for getting private viewing access does not, I repeat, does not automatically give you the authority to make substantive administrative changes to that application using that same system.
Okay, that's a huge distinction. What kind of changes are we talking about? What can't you do just because you linked the customer number for viewing?
The key examples given are things like trying to modify the official correspondence address for the application or trying to appoint a new agent, like changing the patent attorney handling the international matter.
I see.
Even though your customer number is linked and you can see the application status updates, the system doesn't recognize that linkage alone as permission to change those fundamental administrative details like who represents the applicant or where the official mail should go.
So if I do need to change the address or appoint a new attorney for my PCT application, how do I actually do that then, if not through the linked Patent Center view?
For those specific substantive changes, you have to go through a separate process. They must be submitted following the procedures laid out under PCT Rule 92. Beauty.
CT Rule 92Bs. Okay, that sounds like it comes from the Patent Cooperation Treaty rules themselves, not just a USPTO thing.
Exactly. It's an international rule. PCT Rule 92Bs deals with recording changes related to the applicant's or agent's name, address, nationality, that sort of thing, during the international phase.
So how does that work?
A Rule 92B submission typically involves preparing a specific written request and sending it either to the U.S. receiving office, if the USPTO is currently acting in that capacity, or directly to the International Bureau, that's WIPO, in Geneva.
Ah, okay. So it's a formal notification process within the international PCT system itself. It's separate from just getting viewing access in the USPTO's domestic electronic system.
Precisely. Let's use that attorney example again. Even if your customer number is linked in Patent Center, letting you check your PCT application status anytime. If you decide you want a different patent attorney to take over, you can't just update the agent info via your linked Patent Center account.
Right.
You still need to prepare that formal written request under PCT Rule 92Bs and send it off to the proper office, USPTO, as receiving office, or the International Bureau.
That is definitely a procedural detail that could easily trip someone up. You get the convenience of electronic viewing by linking the customer number, but the formal legal changes still need that separate, often paper-based Rule 92Bs process.
It really is. And understanding that separation between viewing access and administrative authority is crucial. It ensures your changes regarding representation or address get properly recorded by the right international body, whether that's the USPTO acting under the PCT or the International Bureau itself. Linking is for looking. Rule 92Bs is for the official record changes in the international phase.
Wow, okay, that was definitely a deep dive into a very specific, but clearly very important bit of procedure from MPEP Chapter 1800.
Yeah, we covered quite a bit there. How you access the status info for international applications via the USPTO's electronic system, the difference between that public view and the restricted private view for the unpublished stuff.
And we dug into the main way you get that private access, linking the application to your customer number, either during filing or using that Form PTO-2248 later. We even noted the slightly old-school submission methods for that form.
Mail or fax, yeah. And most importantly, we hit that key clarification. Just linking for viewing access via the customer number doesn't mean you can change the correspondence address or appoint a new agent through Patent Center.
Right. Those big administrative changes need to follow the separate PCT Rule 92Bs procedures.
Exactly.
It seems pretty clear that getting these specific steps right is vital if you're managing international applications.
Mm-hmm.
You need to use the electronic system correctly for monitoring, but also follow the distinct international rules for making formal changes.
It really is. And, it makes you think, doesn't it, about this sort of intersection. You have this convenient electronic access for just looking at things, but then you still need these formal, sometimes even mail or fax-based submissions for certain official changes, like appointing an agent. How does that reflect the way administrative processes are evolving, maybe sometimes awkwardly, in the digital age, especially when you're trying to mesh national systems with complex international agreements like the PCT? It's an interesting tension.
That is a fascinating point. The push and pull between digital convenience and established formal international legal procedures. Something to mull over. Okay, just our final reminder as always.
Yes. This summary was generated using AI tools. It might have errors or omissions.
It's purely for general educational and informational use. It is definitely not legal advice, and it's not a substitute for formal instruction.
For the definitive word on MPEP Section 1809, or any patent procedure, please always consult the official MPEP, a qualified instructor, or, of course, a registered patent practitioner.
Couldn't say it better. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into MPEP Section 1809.
We hope it gave you a useful shortcut for understanding this particular piece of the patent puzzle.
And we'll see you on the next deep dive into the MPEP.